Good morning. I wrote a ghost play once called Genevive Stickney's Ghost in the year of 2013. Apparently, there is a ghost named Genevive Stickney who hanged herself within her home elevator back in the 1940s, and later on, then her home turned into the Bowers Harbor Inn, and it became a culture visit. And some say that they saw Genevieve Stickney's ghost. So I wrote the play and finished it. And later on, I found out that Genevieve Stickney's never hung herself, but she had died at the Pantlind Hotel in 1947 in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Well, I still have my play script, and I changed the title saying Reflections of a Mistress. The three principal actresses is Genevive Stickney, Frances Wellington, and Marybeth Hazelworth. And later on I found out the very true mistress in this story in Traverse City, Michigan in 2013.
Why the charade?
Let's just say it made my life more peaceful. So now that you found me, what now?
First things first. What am I supposed to call you?
Mrs. Wellington will do.
All right, Mrs. Wellington. There's something you need to know. I'm a professional ghost hunter. I know that must sound strange to you, but I really am a ghost hunter. I've kicked ghosts out of places from New Jersey to San Francisco, and I won't be satisfied until Genevieve Stickney's ghost is out of there. I need for you to tell me who you are and why she's reaching out to you. Can you do that for me?
Yes. I was Genevieve's personal nurse for 38 years. And I lived in their mansion with them for several years. I left from my employment there in 1924 and returned to New York. That's pretty much all I can say. It was a long time ago.
Mrs. Wellington, do you realize what Genevieve is? She's a restless spirit looking for resolve, and that's why she's haunting the place. It's impossible for me to free a ghost without first finding its source of unrest. And there's only one person that holds the key to that, and that's you. You say you don't believe in ghosts. I say you do. I felt her spirit, and she's strong and angry. And I know why you didn't let me walk out of your house just now, because you've felt her too. Now take another look at this photo. How does it make you feel?
I'm frightened.
Yeah, she's reaching out to you, and I saw the fear in your eyes. Here's another photo I want you to see. There's no date or name on it. He takes another photo from his coat, handing it to her. She is especially interested in it.
Where did you find this?
It was in Genevieve's bedroom behind a wainscot panel. However it got there is anyone's guess. Do you have any idea who this might be?
Yes. It's me. When I was 23.
You're kidding! It doesn't look like you. Why the disparity?
In 1939, when my husband and I were vacationing in southern France, I experienced experienced a tragic accident. My husband and I were driving over a bridge on the Orb River, and as we were looking up at the St. Nazar Cathedral, our car blew a tire. It caused us to swerve into oncoming truck. After multiple cosmetic surgeries, my reflection in the mirror was only a stranger to me.
Whoever did your face did a great job. You'd never know it by looking at you. I'm serious. It's beautiful. Where did you have it done? Switzerland?
Yes, that's very knowledgeable of you.
No, it's just a good guess. When was the photo taken?
I've never seen this image, but I do remember where it was taken. It was in New York in 1921.
Oh, so you're a New Yorker.
Yes.
What were you doing there?
I was looking for a new job that would take me away from New York. One morning, my neighbor handed me a newspaper with a red circle around an ad in Michigan. And I called the number and I made an appointment for an interview. The next morning, after breakfast, I jumped on a trolley to the Biltmore Hotel. Once there, I took an elevator to the 12th floor, and there was an older gentleman who was sitting outside a suite. He had me fill out papers, and then he took a quick snapshot of me with his roll-eye camera, and then he ushered me through its door.
Who interviewed you?
It was Mr. Charles F. Stickney.
Wait a minute. I thought we weren't supposed to talk about him.
We'll make an adjustment just this once.
Okay, it's your story. Why was he there?
He was conducting interviews for a nurse.
It was for his wife, right?
Yes, it was.
So what happened then? At this point, when Frances describes Marybeth's movements, the actress portraying Marybeth Hazelworth enters. She is 23 years old, wearing a dark dress and hat.
I walked into the room noticing a chair to my right, and I quickly sat down. I soon heard footsteps from the outside corridor and the doorknob turning.
Excuse me, Mrs. Wellington, do you think you could just talk a little slower? My shorthand's quicker than my mind.
Yes, I'll try. When the door opened, Mr. Stickney walked into the room. And as he studied papers in a vanilla folder that he was holding, and then he turned to me saying,
Mr. Charles Francis Stickney is wearing a fashionable three-piece dark suit and tie. He is 65 years old, well-groomed with a neatly trimmed mustache, and has secular horn-rimmed glasses. He projects a positive and upbeat demeanor. Good morning, Mrs. Hazelworth. I'm Charles Stickney. Thank you for promptly arriving on time. I believe it's a virtuous trait and positive sign for being successful in life. Do you agree?
Yes, I do, sir.
Good. You've passed your first test, my dear, conveying an agreeable nature. Could I please trouble you to stand up and slowly turn once around? She hesitates at his request, but rises and turns once around. Yes, that's very good, thank you. You may sit down. Brian interrupts. Excuse me, but who did he think he was, your Savangale? At moments like this, Frances and Brian can freeze frame Marybeth, Charles, and Genevieve at any time throughout the play.
Why are you interrupting me, Mr. Hawthorne? It's my story.
Sorry. I just thought that was kind of strange of him, didn't you?
No, I was a little taken back, but I wasn't offended. Now, where was I?
You were sitting down.
Yes, I was sitting while he was studying my application. And then he looked up at me saying,
Why would a young lady with your impressive resume travel all the way to northern Michigan?
I felt a change in my life was in order.
Why not find that change somewhere in, let's say, Vermont or New Hampshire? For they're reasonably closer, aren't they?
It's not a matter of distance, but the opportunities, sir. I've trained as a nurse, and your advertisement fits my profile perfectly. If your home were in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, I would travel there as well.
Good. Please bear with me, for I have to be very careful, Miss Hazelworth, for oftentimes young ladies seeking responsibility are confused in their priorities, but I see yours are sufficiently intact.
Thank you, sir.
Brian interrupts. Mrs. Wellington, that's pretty pompous of him, don't you think?
Mr. Hawthorne, you're doing it again.
Sorry. It's just that he's treating you like you don't have a brain in your head.
Do you mind if I continue?
No. Go ahead. It's your story.
Are you done?
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Stickney then, he walked closer to me and he briefly described what my duties were to be and if hired, saying,
You will be attending my wife Genevieve. She's not an invalid, but is plagued by diabetes and obesity. Her diet needs to be overseen with healthy foods. I'm often away on business for days and weeks at a time, making it impossible for me to give her necessary oversight. Your living arrangement will be within our home. You will be relieved of your charge over her once every other week for 2 full days to be used at your own discretion. I have a strict policy, though, that under no circumstance may you allow callers onto our residence. Brian interrupts again. I can't believe this guy.
Mr. Hawthorne, how do you expect me to tell my story if you keep interrupting me?
All right, I'm sorry. It just doesn't seem right somehow.
Should I stop then? Because you don't like it?
No, go on. I need to hear the whole story. Even though he's a creep.
Will you please stop talking about him that way?
Sure. So what then?
Then he asked me if I approved of what he had just described. I really didn't give it much thought other than I liked his look and believed he was an honest man. Then I said the first thing that came to my mind.
Now Marybeth describes.
Yes, I've worked under strenuous circumstances in my past and have prevailed adequately. I'm not intimidated by the duties you described, sir.
Good. Let's continue then. I see here you were raised by your mother, Ethel, in North Elba, New York, and in later years you achieved a degree from Wesley College near Boston. I find this interesting, for so happens we share something in common. For I'm from Massachusetts. It's my place of birth. Did you enjoy your time living there?
Yes, very much. And I have fond memories of my school years there.
Well, then, you received your degree, second in your class, and served as a nurse during the Spanish flu pandemic. Will you please take a few moments in describing your experience there?
Yes, of course, sir.
She appears uncomfortable, as if sick, and hesitates.
Please forgive me.
Are you not feeling well? Can I get you a glass of water?
No, I don't believe it'll be necessary, sir. I just need to catch my breath. I usually avoid reminiscing those troublesome times.
Yes, it must have been a horrifying experience. We'll just move on to another topic then.
No, no, sir. Please allow me to answer your initial request. May I carry on?
Of course, but only if you're feeling up to it.
Do you mind if I stand up? It will help my breathing.
Yes, certainly. Do what you need to do, my dear. She stands, speaking slowly to the audience, in deep thought and steadily emotional.
My most vivid memory is the endless rows of white tents on the open fields of Queens, New York. It was early March in 1918, sir. Inside each tent there were wooden cots where the sick lie dying. My initial duty was washing their bluish arms, sunken chest, limp legs, and for the less fortunate, they perished within mere hours or days. When I first reported, I had never experienced seeing anyone die before, and I was fearful for when that day would eventually come. I'll never forget the angelic face of a very young child, no more than 4 or 5. When I washed her hands and little feet, she would look into my eyes, and somehow knowing her fate. Over the coming days, she surprisingly held on, getting fitter by the day. She was strong enough to tell me her name, and she spoke lovingly of her mother and her father. And then one day early morning, as I made my rounds, I noticed several nurses standing near her cot, and they were lifting her onto a dark canvas stretcher. I rushed over to her side, insisting a final look. And when the woolen blanket was pulled from her face, I saw her lovely eyes now peacefully closed forever. I held her little hand tightly in mine as a nurse gently released my grip. And then I stood there, just feeling terribly empty, watching them quietly carry her away.
Marybeth cannot speak further as Charles moves to her side, gently embracing her. Frances is thoughtfully in her past.